Okay, this is why I love Pokemon. This is what got me into playing competitive and then snowballed into my channel and all kinds of other craziness, because it's like a knowledge reward, that the more you know about the game, the more secrets you discover, the more cool stuff you might be able to point out. And with the newest Pokemon reveal, I am not kidding when I say that we might have one of the strongest Pokemon ever introduced into the game being revealed very recently. So we have the new Tapu line, we also have the starter final evolutions, and then a Alolan Persian. And all of these are going to be very interesting to talk about, but I'm going to lead with Tapu Bulu because of Grassy Surge. So interestingly enough, we could have maybe seen this coming, because we know that there's Grassy Terrain, Misty Terrain, Electric Terrain, and then another terrain move being introduced. Now, Tapu Koko kind of give away that all of these might have some kind of terrain setting, but when you think about it, when you think about Grassy Terrain, this move is absolutely nuts. Now, actually, quite a lot of Pokemon did get access to it, and it is powerful in its own right. Problem is the setup, that you need to set it up, and then the rest of your strategy is kind of awkward from there. And also the Pokemon that do get access to Grassy Terrain, they're either going to want to do other things, like Bulbasaur, you'd rather have Sunny Day into Chlorophyll Sweep on a Venusaur, or just go Mega and stuff, and then try to go for raw damage instead of wasting a turn on setup. Now also, all of the grass starters do get access to that, so we can even assume that maybe Rowlet will also get access to Grassy Terrain, which might snowball this as well. But there is a lot of interesting things, but unfortunately, like I said, it didn't get the right support. However, we now have it automatically set when you bring in Tapu Bulu, which means Nature Power is now something to think about, especially when we're looking at all of these other ones. Misty Terrain, Electric Terrain, Grassy Terrain brings us Moonblast, Thunderbolt, Energy Ball, and I'm guessing we're gonna get like Psychic or Psyshock when it comes into Psychic Terrain. But that's not the scary thing, guys. The scary thing is Secret Power. Because how Secret Power works is that you get a 30% chance of causing a secondary effect. But that is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Secret Power, because Secret Power actually replaced Rock Smash for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. It had to be reintroduced so we can have secret bases, but then we can go to the Pokemon Sun and Moon demo data mine, and actually TM94 is going to be Surf because HMs are removed from the game. However, this does mean that for like non-transfer Pokemon, or if Secret Power does get introduced as, say, I guess it would have to be some kind of tutor move. If it's a tutor move, that is really scary. But at the current time, all 6th generation Pokemon can learn Secret Power, because any Pokemon that can learn TM and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire gets Secret Power. And that's where the scary things come in, because Grassy Terrain causes sleep with a 30% chance, which means you can put on a Serene Grace Pokemon, and you have a 60% chance to cause sleep in an opponent while dealing damage, while being set up for free by Tapu Bulu. So we have to keep an eye out for Tapu Bulu's moveset. And also, I guess, tutors, because if tutors come back and they introduce Secret Power, that is something that could be very scary. Or transfer formats, that once we get the Pokebank, then that means we have Pokemon like Serene Grace, Togekiss with Choice Scarf using Secret Power. You know how difficult it is going up against Togekiss, and then every time it flinches you? Well, imagine that flinch is now you just straight up going to sleep. And then you can do that in double battles with some kind of combo. That is actually something really terrifying to think about, and Tapu Bulu just brings it like that. So Secret Power will be on the table. But then going back to Nature Power, quite a lot of Pokemon get Nature Power by a TM, and that means we now have Pokemon that get Thunderbolt that don't have access to Thunderbolt. We also have all these other things, Energy Ball and Moonblast, as well as probably Psychic or Psyshock. So what does that mean? That means now we have like dragon killing potential on effectively just a hard-hitting special attacker if you are running Tapu Fini, for example, because Tapu Fini brings the Misty Terrain. So think about Nature Power and Secret Power when incorporating that into your strategy. Secret Power just works out pretty well. We have Paralysis chance, lower special attack chance, and I'm just really interested to see how this all unfolds. So now we can go back to some of the other things. I was also looking at Mesprit and Azelf, mostly to get an idea of potentially the Tapu stats, because they're either going to be somewhere between like 580 and 600, like most pseudo-legendary Pokemon, but with this, we can see that these stats are actually going to be pretty balanced. So I'm wondering if we're going to have like, you know, really defensive Tapu Pokemon, or really offensive Tapu Pokemon, then one mixed physical attacker, or one like kind of split defensive physical attacker than one split defensive special attacker. And just looking at the Tapu Pokemon, it's kind of hard to tell, because I feel like Tapu Fini is going to be incredibly defensive. It has more of just like a shell encasement. Same with Tapu Lele, but I thought Tapu Koko was going to be a physical attacker, so maybe Tapu Koko's special, Tapu Bulu, is the physical one, because that looks like just a raging bull of a Pokemon, and we can kind of go more into details right there. So Tapu Lele will be Psychic, and then sets the Psychic Surge. Psychic Surge is absolutely scary and broken to think about, because, oh, you just drop in the Psychic Surge, and now your opponent doesn't get to use Fake Out. They don't get to have their own setup like that, because the priority moves will be fizzled out. Actually, what does it say? With Psychic Surge, field will be turned into Psychic Terrain when Tapu Lele appears, boosting the power of any Psychic-type moves and preventing them from being hit by priority moves. So I'm wondering if that means just damaging priority moves or all priority moves, as in like a Prankster Pokemon gets completely shut down because you can't Prankster Swagger, you can't Prankster Status them if it includes that. I think we'll have to wait and see on how the Psychic Surge and Psychic Terrain works, but that is another really interesting thing. But now we're getting into Terrain Wars, because the way that terrain moves work is that terrains replace other terrains already in effect, and also Misty Terrain getting a buff in the 7th generation. Pokemon can't be confused when Misty Terrain is on, so you just set the Misty Terrain, and then you are safe from any kind of shenanigans your opponent might throw, which means they might want to bring in Tapu Bulu to underspeed your Tapu Fini, or something that can actually replace that if they want to go for status, because this does work both ways, that all Pokemon that are grounded can't be affected by status. That can be used as like an anti-flying, anti-levitate strategy, that you might have one status move because, oh, they're still bringing a flying type Pokemon, you can still paralyze them, you can still burn them, and then all the other Pokemon are going to be safe from status, even like Confusion. Oh, this is like, there's so many crazy things that are going on with this right now. And then when you're thinking about Tapu Fini, might even be able to snowball it further. So where's that Tapu Fini right here? Because it's a water fairy. So if Tapu Fini just straight up doesn't get Moonblast, well, you can Nature Power into a stab Moonblast off of that, which is really scary, and then just all kinds of other things. So Dragon-type moves are halved, and yeah, it's going to be Terrain Wars. Like, we've seen Weather Wars, we've seen Trick Room Wars, and now it's going to be the generation of Terrain Wars, and then you're going to have to think about the other way of doing it. Like, okay, what if I just bring some kind of counter to their terrain? Like, you almost feel forced to bring one of the Tapu Pokemon, which could stagnate the meta, but maybe that is where you will start looking for, like, counterplay opportunities. Like, okay, they're always bringing these Tapu Pokemon, they're always going to be Fairy, so bring a Steel-type Pokemon, bring a Poison-type Pokemon. Like, Tapu Bulu is going to be very weak, because it is a Grass Fairy, so if you start bringing Poison, then you just knock it out. So that means the counters to Fairy-type Pokemon have also been buffed, and there's just a lot of really weird things going on right there. So I think that that's kind of the first look at what is going on with all the Tapu Pokemon and the Terrain Wars and the craziness like that. Like, there's still so many other combos that, alright, Psychic Pokemon get a buff to their Psychic moves, Grass Pokemon to their Grass moves, and so on, and then Electric Terrain. What if there's other terrain synergizing moves like we get off of the Alolan Raichu? Because Alolan Raichu gets that Surge Surfer, so it's going to get a boost in Electric Terrain. We already know about Grassy Pelt. Grassy Pelt is that ability that Go-Goat has, that it boosts its defense when it's in grassy terrain. So, all kinds of potential terrain synergy, something to keep an eye out for. Now let's go back to the main stuff, because I don't really know what to say about the starter Pokemon. As I've said in the past, it doesn't look like they're going to have any of the new highest base stats. Like, it doesn't look like, alright, we might have the highest attack that a starter Pokemon's ever had, or the highest special or speed. So they seem to be very balanced starters. I guess the only speculation right now is what their hidden ability is going to be. So for Decidueye, a couple of the good abilities seem like Keen Eye, just because evasion is a bit of a problem and you'd be able to hit through evasion, which is pretty nice. The Sniper ability does make a lot of sense as just like an archer Pokemon. And then I've even seen a couple of people talking about Infiltrator. Infiltrator would be pretty awesome. Now, when it comes to Incineroar, just straight up sheer force. I feel like Iron Fist would be a really bad thing because, one, Sheer Force gives you more damage, and two, Iron Fist really limits you to a lot of non-stab stuff. At least with Sheer Force, it's going to give you some other options outside of that. And then with Primarina, we can get all kinds of really cool stuff on this. What about the Dancer ability? The new Dancer ability was introduced with Oricorio, and it talks about, you know, how the pre-evolution loves dancing, and then maybe that carries over. Also, Pixelate, it's a Fairy-type Pokemon. Pixelate, Hyper Voice on the Primarina, that will be useful, and I think that's really all there is, just speculation about the abilities. So as long as they get really competitive abilities on the starters, these Pokemon might be super duper useful. And then last up, let's talk about Alolan Persian, because Alolan Persian, still a very good Pokemon. It gets that Fur Coat ability. Now you might not know what Fur Coat does if you haven't used Furfrou before, but it halves the damage from physical moves. So that is an amazing ability for the Alolan Persian to have. So Fur Coat, boom, double defense effectively. You get an Assault Vest, and then you can like Sucker Punch, maybe Baton Pass, attack into it. So you go Swords Dance, Baton Pass into Alolan Persian, you have Assault Vest, and then you just Sucker Punch everything down, or you go for like just some kind of straight up move. That could be pretty powerful, and there's a couple of other combo options right there. I want to see this thing just be like a beef tank of damage. It might also get some other moves, you know, at least with that Fur Coat ability. Defensively, you get a lot of free options, and that's why I like the idea of Assault Vest, but maybe there's something else that you can use that will work out just fine. So if you guys enjoyed the video, oh my goodness, this game is going to be insane on doubles, and it's still going to have some really crazy stuff to bring out in singles. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.